A vast open town in a grassy field, our story commences with. In the village, a tiny race of bug folk lived, known as the Menders. This peculiar and productive race lived peacefully, tirelessly working to store food for their village so that they won't starve for the upcoming chill of autumn. But one fateful night, disaster struck. A band of selfish hoarders, led by a dastardly individual named Nosk, who raided the village and stole their entire food supply, leaving them with, well, nothing for the upcoming winter. The Menders scattered in despair at the center of their village, their antennae drooping with despair. Many could be heard crying, but a figure from the crowd stepped forward. It was Wilt, a small but cunning scavenger that loves rummaging through the meadows, through forgotten nooks and crannies. Wilt was no warrior, but he had a knack for thinking on his feet.
I may not be a fighter, but I'll find a way to get back what's ours. Nosk won't see it coming.
Wilt knew he couldn't outmuscle Nosk and his gang of hoarders. Instead, he relied on his sharp mind and the help of the villagers. He hatched a daring plan. While he distracted Nosk and his gang, the villagers would sneak into their lair and reclaim their stolen food. Wilt traveled across the meadow, his eyes scanning for useful tools along his journey. He collected a bundle of honeydew, pebbles, and 30 pieces of birch bark. When he reached the Nosk lair, a hollowed-out log covered in sharp thorns, Wilt stopped to take a breath.
You've got this, Wilt.
Inside the log, the stolen food stacked high, glowing softly in the dim light. Nosk launched atop the horde, guarded by his goons.
Who dares to intrude on my domain?
I've heard about your, impressive haul. Thought I'd pay my respects to such fine taste. I figured someone like you would appreciate some exotic goods.
What's your motive, kid?
Oh, no. All intent at all, sir. I figured someone like you would appreciate some exotic goods.
As Wilt began to recount his tales of hidden treasures and bounties to claim, the bandits leaned closer and closer, joining in as Wilt showed off his collection of shiny trinkets and his sticky honeydews, claiming they were worth far more than mere seeds and berries. Meanwhile, back at the village, a group of villagers, scouted by a scout, made their way stealthily to Nosk's lair. With Wilt keeping the hoarders entertained, the villagers slipped into the shadows of the log, unnoticed, and began reclaiming their stolen supplies. On leaf sleds, Nosk's antenna twitched as he turned back to notice the pile of food suddenly gone.
Wait a minute. Something's wrong here.
Thinking quickly, Wilt spills the honeydews onto Nosk's feet. The honey made him stumble, and in the chaos, Wilt darted out of the log, shouting,
Catch me if you can!
The enraged Nosk gave chase with his bandits, leaving the lair unguarded. Wilt led them on a wild run through the meadow, ducking under leaves and hopping over the roots, until Nosk, annoyed and fatigued, could chase no more. Wilt returned to the village. The bugfolk greeted him with cheers and gratitude. Their food stores had been replenished, and the village was safe once more. Didn't you fight him? One of the young villagers asked in amazement.
Sometimes the best way to win isn't sheer strength. Smarts go a long way too.
From that day forward, the villagers remembered Wilt not as a scavenger, but a protector, and a smart one at that, who had saved them in their hour of need. Somewhere out there in the meadows, Nosk is plotting his next encounter with our hero.